So I've been around for a long time. Back in the 1970s, I'm an old man now. I'm 65. So I've been around for a long time. Back in the 1970s, I was a journalist, and my interest at that time was entirely in current affairs. I had no interest in the past at all. I was the East Africa correspondent for The Economist in the early 1980s. I was based in Nairobi in Kenya. My beat as their correspondent took me frequently to Ethiopia, which was very much in the news in those days. And in Ethiopia, I came across an incredible story. Ethiopia claims to possess the lost Ark of the Covenant, as in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which in the early 1980s, as it happened, I had just seen. So I found myself in front of this monk in a city called Aksum in northern Ethiopia, then in the midst of a war zone. And he's telling me that behind him in this chapel is the Ark of the Covenant. And part of me's thinking, come on. And part of me's thinking, there's a story here. And I started to follow that story. I was told by academics there was nothing to it, but at the same time I could see that this idea that the Ark of the Covenant was in Ethiopia was central to Ethiopian culture, was central to the ancient form of Christianity practiced in Ethiopia, and was central to the religion of the Ethiopian Jews as well, the people who call themselves Beta Israel, or the House of Israel, who practice a very Old Testament form of Judaism. So I started to think, the academics are telling me there's nothing to this, but I think there is something to it. The truth on the ground is much different from what the scholars are saying. And I began to investigate it very, very closely. And that investigation drew me in two directions. It drew me into the ancient past and the mysteries of the past. And it made me realize that everything scholars say is not necessarily true, that they are often expressing their prejudices. Rather than really researched work. So it was that was my initiation into the past. It was a process. To write that book, I also needed to travel to Egypt, and I found myself in front of the Great Pyramid for the first time. It had an extraordinary effect on me. I began to look into the details of it, the statistics, the precision of the structure. And again, I looked at what the academics were saying, and it sounded like utter rubbish to me. So I felt there's a place for further investigation here, and that eventually led on to my best-known book, which is Fingerprints of the Gods, that was published in 1995. By that time, I was fully drawn in to the mystery and magic of the past and completely separated from current affairs. And I've continued that relationship with the past. I think that's where we need to disentangle the truth most urgently, because if we've got our past wrong, then that's part of why we've got our present wrong as well. Well, how did communities and civilizations begin to form is a question that takes us back to the roots of human experience. Humans are naturally social animals. We live in groups. None of us really have the resources as individuals to function and survive in the world. We have those resources as a community. And I think you can trace the human story as far back as you could possibly trace it, and you're going to find that community is part of it. And for a very long time, those communities were communities of hunter-gatherers. And it's interesting, if you go back to the Upper Paleolithic, that we find almost no evidence for warfare. We find almost no evidence for the greedy acquisition of material goods, rather a living in harmony with nature and a living off the land, but living as a community, small communities which are self-sufficient, which interrelate with other communities, but which do not make war upon them. There's no sign of that. Something else enters the human story in the period that academics call the Neolithic, when we get the, supposedly, and I think this whole history needs to be looked at very, very carefully, but when we get supposedly the first agricultural communities that are, unlike hunter-gatherer communities, these agricultural communities are generating surpluses. Those surpluses allow specialist skills to emerge. Astronomers, priests, architects, designers can suddenly be supported by the community and can exercise their skills in the benefit of the community. That sounds like a really good thing, but it's unfortunately in the Neolithic, exactly when that begins to happen, that we get the evidence for warfare, for one community seeking to dominate and control another. And I think what a long look at the past says is that that is not inevitable to the human condition. We don't have to go that way. We can live in organized societies. We can benefit from large communities pooling their intelligence and their skills. We can benefit from all of that without becoming destructive and murderous. It's a matter of waking up and making the choice. Why did communities create temples? The temple is something that is associated with organized hierarchical religion. You do not get temples in hunter-gatherer societies. In a sense, their temple is the universe. Their temple is the sacred Mother Earth.
Art and education. Good morning to you.
Those are the temples of hunter-gatherer communities. They don't need to build structures.
A little bit of art.
Perhaps amplify.
A little bit of education.
They are already.
We're listening to Graham Hancock right now. He's an Egyptologist. This is just a really quick interview he did with someone asking him some general questions, but getting his take on it, since he sees history from a very, very different perspective as most archaeologists, historians, Egyptologists. So I really enjoy listening to Graham Hancock. So good morning, everybody. Art and education. Start the day off right.
Connected to the fundamental basis of all experience. What you get as societies become more organized and more hierarchical is you get the spiritual experience being channeled through some kind of religious structure. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. If you look at ancient Egypt, really, which is a culture that actually enshrines many of the values of hunter-gatherer societies, much more than many academics would realize. It was also a hierarchical and organized society. They understood something about sky and ground, about as above, so below. They understood how to create sacred spaces in which the human experience of mystery and of the divine could be amplified. And these sacred spaces include the great temples of Upper Egypt, the Temple of Horus at Edfu, for example, the Temple of Seti I at Abydos in Upper Egypt. These are amazing places. The moment that you enter them, you can feel that something's working on your consciousness. Even today, thousands of years after they were decommissioned, after they ceased to be part of a functioning society, they still reach out to us and touch us at an extremely deep level. The Great Pyramid is the classic example of that. The lie told by archaeologists is that the Great Pyramid was the tomb of some megalomaniac pharaoh. It's been clear to me for a very long time that the Great Pyramid was never a tomb. The Great Pyramid was a giant instrument for amplifying human consciousness. And it functions as a beacon. It still functions as a beacon. It draws people towards it from all over the world. They don't even know why they're drawn towards it. It selects its own initiates. For some people, it's just a heap of stones. For others, it's a sacred mystery. And those are the ones that the Great Pyramid speaks to, and it was designed to do that. So, although the creation of temples and sacred architecture is the work of organized hierarchical societies, we have the example particularly of ancient Egypt, which tells us that that work can be good. It can touch the human soul in a wonderful, thought-out, beautiful way. It's not an accident. The historian Herodotus visited Egypt in the 4th or 5th century before Christ, and Herodotus reported that the Egyptians were the happiest people that he had ever encountered anywhere on earth. And this is a civilization that devoted its best minds for 3,000 years to considering the mystery of life and death and the mystery of existence, and found a beautiful way to function in the world. Unfortunately, as time goes on, you get a new force coming into the world, and those are the monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, which rapidly cease to be about direct spiritual contact. Those sacred temples of Egypt were not about enhancing the power of the priesthood. They were about giving individuals the additional support to access mystery. What we have in the big monotheistic faiths is something very different. We have the priests and the rabbis and the mullahs who are imposing themselves between us and the divine. We are to only experience the divine with their permission, their way, through their system, and no other way. And this then ceases to be something that serves the human spirit, and it becomes something that's part of the system of control in our society. So what I observe is that sacred spaces and temples have become denaturized as time has gone on. They've become a home of bureaucracy rather than a home of spiritual experience.
How do you think the pyramids were built?
How do I think the pyramids were built?
Craig from Scotland, what's up, man?
I have no answer to that question. And anybody who tells you that he or she knows how the pyramids were built,
Gideon the Fourth, or
we don't.
King Gideon, King Gideon the Fourth.
Contains a number.
What are you talking about?
The Great Pyramid, first of all, is very big. The Great Pyramid weighs 6 million tons. We can calculate that from its mass. It weighs 6 million tons. Its footprint is 13 acres. It's more than 750 feet along each side. It's 481 feet tall. More than 2.5 million individual blocks of stone were used in its construction. But it's not just big. It's really, really precise. The Great Pyramid is locked in to the cardinal dimensions of our planet. The Great Pyramid is targeted on true north within 3/60ths of a single degree. Now, no modern builder would create a large building and add onto his or her shoulders the additional burden of aligning it to true north within a fraction of a single degree. They just wouldn't get it. They wouldn't understand why it was important to do that. But something drove the builders of the Great Pyramid to go to a very great additional trouble, not only to create this massive, imposing monument, but also to lock it on to true north. And then other things, to incorporate into its dimensions the dimensions of our planet. I don't want to get too numerical or possibly even boring here, but if you take the height of the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. And if you measure the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid accurately and multiply that measurement by 43,200, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. In other words, for thousands of years, through times, through dark ages, when human beings didn't even know they lived on a planet, never mind its dimensions, that monument has encoded and speaks out the dimensions of our planet on a scale of 1 to 43,200. And the scale is not random. The number 43,200 is derived from a key motion of the Earth, which is called the precession of the Earth's axis. The Earth wobbles on its axis very slowly at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. And 43,200 is a multiple of 72. In fact, I think it's 600 times 72, but I need to double check that. But it's a multiple of 72. Check it out. So they've given us the dimensions of our planet on a scale defined by the planet itself. And that's an incredibly clever thing to do. How on earth did they do it? Where did that knowledge come from? This is why I'm forced to consider the possibility of a lost civilization in the human story. This is a work of almost, but not quite, space-age precision. It contains errors, but they are human errors for sure, but they're very tiny. The great precision, great skill, great craft. Some people will say to you, oh, the Great Pyramid was built by slaves. That is utter bullshit. No slaves were ever involved in the construction of the Great Pyramid. As far as I know, there were no slaves in Old Kingdom Egypt whatsoever. The Great Pyramid, I've climbed it 5 times. I've been in every known chamber in the Great Pyramid. It is a work of stunning artistic achievement. You're looking at the work of masters of architecture at the peak of their skill. Not an unwilling labor force, but people who gave their labor to that work with love and with care and with attention. There are blocks of stone weighing 70 tons that have been raised more than 300 feet above the ground. And we're not talking a couple of blocks, we're talking dozens of blocks of that weight. The average block weighs about 2.5 tons. It's the moving of those huge blocks of stone, their arrangement into a high precision monument, and the achievement of actually doing it, because you know if you make a small mistake at the base, by the time you get to the summit of your 481 foot high pyramid, you don't have a pyramid, you have a corkscrew. You know, they got it all right, and nobody today can explain how they did it with the knowledge that is supposed to have been available in ancient Egypt, in the Old Kingdom, and with the tools that are supposed to have been available. And that's why I can't help feeling that we are missing some chapter from the human story. Do I think music is a global impulse? Absolutely yes. Music is fundamental to the human creature. We are connected to music, through music, with music, in extraordinary and deep ways. It is not an accident, for example, that music, the songs that are called Icaros, are used in ayahuasca ceremonies in the Amazon. They're not a sideline. The singing of those songs is central to the ayahuasca ceremony and to the ayahuasca experience. And when you're in the grip of the brew, in a deep visionary state, those songs become roads. They become pathways. They materialize. You can see them. And you find yourself following them. They're leading you in the direction of the experience you need. And they're a central part of it. I think music alone is capable of bringing about altered states of consciousness if we engage with it properly. Capable of touching us in our emotional centers in the way that almost nothing else is. I think music is a sacred exercise for humanity, and perhaps we need to recover that notion a little bit and to sacralize music again. I don't really know of any ancient civilization which achieved a high level of functioning which didn't use psychedelics. Psychedelics were astonishingly widely used in the ancient world, and used very carefully, with great attention being paid to what we now call set and setting. So, for example, you can go to Chavin de Huantar, about 200 miles north of Lima, turn right, drive up into the Andes, 14,000 feet, drop down into the Chavin Valley, and you'll find yourself in an ancient archaeological site, the largest part of which are galleries below the ground, which were used in ceremony in ancient times, and that ceremony involved the San Pedro cactus. It involved, in which mescaline is the active ingredient.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, I like him. Do I agree with everything he says? No, because it's science, and he's a true hardcore scientist, and he will leave out a lot of spiritual energies and spiritual explanations as to why the universe and things function the way they do. But even science boils down everything to a spiritual. It's energy, basically. Sound, vibration, energy. That's the creation of everything. Is what science is starting to say. The wetting the sand and building. No, the See, people envision the Giza Plateau as the desert it is today when the pyramids were built. It was very lush. It was more green and had more vegetation than people can even almost imagine now. That's why there's in that area there are pictures of crocodiles and alligators and shit like that that need water. But just because it's all dry sand right now, it's like, oh, I heard they wet the sand. Well, it wasn't even all dry sand. There was plenty of lush areas around there, and that just doesn't seem logical because they have a time frame for building it, 20 something years, and to have to go through a process like just dragging each individual stone, they wouldn't have been able to build it in that time frame that they're saying. It's really weird, yo. Yo, Rodriguez, what's up, man? Yeah, Ethiopian. Yeah, proud to be Ethiopian, part of the ancient civilizations. It's only one person, and she's sitting in front of a mirror. And yes, she's a real person. I took this picture about 6 years ago and just never used it. And so I finally decided to go ahead and use this photograph. I did a couple photo shoots with her, and I've painted her once before from a different photo where she's sitting on a lawn chair and she's reading a book and she has two guns beside her. And so this is actually the same girl. Yeah. There's a Russian scientist who is said to recreate levitation from studying bugs. It's sound vibration, man. Sound. They're already levitating different things using sound. And like Graham just said, when they talked about music, I think music is essential to the human experience. So what is music? Is organizing or a focused vibration. If you want to get a certain tone or a note or a pitch, you have to keep that certain vibration in the air to make a certain fucking sound. And if you can get enough people to vibrate at a certain frequency, at a certain sound wave, and maybe have that, some kind of external amplification device, whether it be, something like a tuning fork or some other device that we couldn't even imagine now that would amplify the vibrational force or the sonic impact from a chant or a song, and people would be able to lift stones as if they weighed nothing, you know, and push and move these big blocks how they wanted to, 60,000 or 16 tons, and just like, and fucking move these shits. And I honestly think it was some type of sound technology because they can't find tools. Oh, they wet the sand and this and that. Where are all the thousands and thousands of vases or whatever they use to carry the water and all this shit? There is no, and that's the whole mystery behind it. There's no tools left. There's no tools. The regular Bible says the world was created through sound. And God said, you know, in the beginning there was the word, sound, vibration. Same thing. Everybody knows that sound is the creator of matter. Vibration, a dense vibration will form matter. Exactly. One voice, yo. And that's all. And when people figure shit out like this by themselves, Nikola Tesla, all the shit Nikola Tesla figured out by himself, and look what happened to all his research. And he was ready to give shit away. You know what I'm saying? He was just tuned in. Some people can get tuned in and figure shit like that out. And be like, yo, guys, if we try it this way, this will happen. And we can have free energy for everybody. And they like, nah, nigga. He said, what? Free? Man, he tripping, bruh. You about to get paid off of this. No, see, what I'm saying is the harmonic resonance generated by the Earth's rotation through space automatically creates an electronic field that we can tap into wirelessly. All we got to do is build this tower, right? It's copper, diamond, see, it's gonna call it the Tesla coil, right? And then it's free wireless energy. Like, no, dude, we're gonna get paid off this shit. You're fucking bugging. Nobody gives a fuck what you're talking about. And so Tesla dies poor and defamed, and it's like, what the fuck? People are so stupid. We speak for the earth. Where is the earth? The earth's in space, right? We're all in space right now. You know what I'm saying? We're all in the universe. We are of the universe. The universe is in us. Yeah.
Conquistadors came there, they couldn't understand what all this was about. Why had they created these great galleries? What was going on? We now know what was going on. They were creating a setting that would maximize the effect of the psychedelic of choice, which in their case was the San Pedro cactus. If you go to Eleusis in ancient Greece, it's a ruin now outside of Athens. But for more than 2,000 years, until the 4th century after Christ, Eleusis was the beating heart of the ancient Greek world. And again, like Chavin de Wantar, it turns out that there are enormous underground galleries, darkened spaces, which they called the Telestrion. We now know what was going on there. The initiates in the Eleusinian mysteries came and drank a brew before they went down into the Telestrion. That brew essentially was LSD. It was a non-poisonous form of ergot growing on barley, which they then harvested and cooked up in the brew called the kykeon. So no wonder when people went down into the Telestrion, into those darkened spaces which were subtly lit here and there, that they would have life-transforming experiences. Plato was an initiate, Sophocles was an initiate, Cicero was an initiate, Pindar was an initiate. They all said that the experience they had had in the Telestrion after drinking the brew was life-changing. They lost utterly their fear of death. They knew that death was not the end, but just the beginning of the next great adventure. And those spaces were the heart of everything that was good and worthy and worthwhile about ancient Greek culture. And it's a comment upon the way that civilization has gone, that it was fanatical early Christianity that destroyed Eleusis and that put an end to those rites that had been so life-affirming and so life-enhancing for so long. And this is true, frankly, all around the world, whether you go to ancient India, whether you go to ancient Mexico, of course to ancient South America. In South America, we have a whole pyramid city called Caral, which has only been excavated in the last 15 years. And, you know, archaeologists went to it with their prejudices. Nobody could have created a huge place like this unless they were highly domineering and hierarchical and making war on others. Turns out there's no evidence of warfare whatsoever at Caral, but what there is evidence of is the massive use of hallucinogenic snuffs from the Amazon. So this great culture that built the largest pyramids ever created in the New World, pyramids that are 5,000 years old, this great culture was founded upon and based upon the import of hallucinogenic snuffs from the Amazon and the free interrelation of peoples without any warfare. You can find this all around the world. Psychedelics have been central to human culture from the very beginning, and I think that goes right back to the Stone Age, to the Upper Paleolithic. There's a moment when a light seems to go on in our ancestors' heads all around the world, and they start producing art that is definitive of visionary experiences. They are depicting visionary experiences. And that's the moment that we get this huge step forward in the evolution of human behavior. We're already anatomically modern, but the software wasn't there. It looks like it was psychedelics that provided the software, that brought about modern human consciousness. We are now in a process of reversion from that. We need to correct that course. We need to return to the course of expanded consciousness, of dissolved boundaries, of openness to the universe, and to the spirit of love and nurture, which is fundamental to the human experience. Look, we're creatures of this planet. We are bound into the rhythms of this planet, and the ultimate, obvious, immediate, present rhythm is the rhythm of day and night. That for some hours, the side of the planet we're sitting on faces the sun, and as it revolves, it then faces darkness. So we have night and day, and it's part of all our biorhythms. I mean, you try and ignore night and day for too long, and you'll find that it has a very disturbing effect on your psyche. So I think we should never forget that we're creatures of the earth. We are part of this sacred realm, this gorgeous, beautiful garden of a planet. You know, this blue, lush, wondrous, beautiful planet that is floating like a bubble in space and preserving life. So of course we're part of the planet. We're not aliens here. We belong here. We emerged from this planet. We are, in a way, an important part of the consciousness of this planet. I'm not saying we're the only part. Consciousness is everywhere, but we're an important part of it. And because we have made ourselves so powerful, almost to the point where humanity has become a geological force, our consciousness and our behavior is a really important matter to consider if we're considering the future of the planet. So we should never forget, this planet is our home. We emerged from it. And this is, in my view, not an accidental process. It's a part of the whole universe coming awake. We are locked into the rhythms of this planet, whether it's night and day, whether it's the annual course of the Earth around the sun, which gives us the seasons. Beautifully and amazingly, the Earth is tilted on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. For that reason, we have seasons. If the Earth was perfectly upright on its axis, we would not have seasons. But we have seasons because of the tilt. It's almost as though the universe conspired to create a beautiful home for life. it's almost like it was a project to create a place where life could flourish, where consciousness could grow and consciousness could develop. We need to remember that we're part of the earth, we're part of the consciousness of the earth, but we also need to remember that other forces are at work which seek to shut human consciousness down. And part of our duty and part of our responsibility as creatures of the earth is to resist those forces that shut down our consciousness, because it's the earth that has given us our consciousness. So, in order to answer that question, I need to refer you to an ancient body of ideas. And that ancient body of ideas is called Gnosticism. Gnosticism means knowledge. But the Gnostics were not talking about the kind of knowledge you get from reading books or that you study in school or in university. They were talking about revelation, about revealed knowledge, which comes through experience and can come in an instant. Psychedelics, as a matter of fact, are one of the effective ways of reintroducing us to gnosis. No longer do we count on the expert to tell us what we're experiencing or what the experience means. We have the experience ourselves, and that experience is transformatory. Now, the Gnostics believed, and I'm simply reporting to you their belief, that we live in a friend of mine actually calls this world a university of duality. He's touching on Gnostic ideas there, because the Gnostics believe that the fundamental character of this level of existence is duality, that there is dark and light, that there is good and evil, and that good and evil are not simple social constructs, that they are fundamental to the essence of life at this level of existence. It doesn't mean that there isn't unity beyond that, but that at this level of existence, we have something to learn from duality. Duality forces us to make choices. We don't think about it a lot, but actually every minute of every day, we are making choices, sometimes very small, sometimes very large, between good and evil. We are making choices about how we live in the world, about how we function, about how we relate to others. And the Gnostics saw this as a teaching and a learning process. Part of that learning process is that there is a force at work in the universe which seeks to snuff out the divine spark in humanity, which seeks to deny the growth of our consciousness. That's an unfortunate side of dualism. They called this force the demiurge. And they said that the demiurge had evil angels working for him, who they called archons. And those evil angels, they worked to limit and suppress and destroy human consciousness. And the project of Gnosticism was to bring illumination, for us to understand, to realize what our true condition is, and why it's extremely important that we make choices for good rather than for evil. The essential notion of Gnosticism is that there are forces at work impacting upon us which are good and nurturing and beautiful and true, and there are other forces at work impacting upon us which are evil and deadly and destructive and dangerous. And our position, our situations as human beings, is that we must choose between the two. The demiurgic forces are clever. They work to limit human choice. They work to persuade us that there is no choice to make. And that's why I think that we find ourselves in this situation where we are confronted by evil all the time, and sometimes on a very grand scale, a global scale. To me, it seems obvious that some kind of evil is at work when we can have so much wealth in Western cultures, so much prosperity, and yet close our minds and eyes to the fact that half the human race is living in a state of desperate deprivation, where every day is a struggle for existence.
Now, see, this is what gets me with some white people. He just said white supremacy without saying white supremacy. It really ticks me. Like, why don't you just call it what it is? Anytime you hear Western cultures, Western means white. Western civilization, Western culture, Western philosophy. It means European or white. And when people complain about the power that Western culture has over the rest of the world, it's white supremacy, but they won't say it. I like people, but man, people won't go hardcore with
But
their
they have
words.
no minds and eyes to the fact. It seems obvious that there's some kind of evil is at work.
Some
When we
kind
can
of
have so
evil.
much wealth in Western cultures,
For there
find
to be so
ourselves
much wealth
work
in
to
Western
limit
cultures
is
is
dangerous.
evil,
And
but he won't call it what
our
it is.
position, our situations as human beings, is that we must choose between the two. The demiurgic forces are clever. They work to limit human choice. They work to persuade us that there is no choice to make. And that's why I think that we find ourselves in this situation where we are confronted by evil all the time, and sometimes on a very grand scale, a global scale. To me, it seems obvious that some kind of evil is at work when we can have so much wealth in Western cultures, so much prosperity, and yet close our minds and eyes to the fact that half the human race is living in a state of desperate deprivation, where every day is a struggle for existence, where they have no time to do anything else except to struggle to keep body and soul together for another day. We have political forces at work in our society which seek to persuade us that warfare is right, that we should go and make war on other peoples because they disagree with us on some idea or another. The Gnostics would have understood that immediately as the demiurge at work, misguiding us, seeking to divorce us from our true essential selves.
No sleep.
The same goes for big corporations, and for the so-called nanny state, the state which seeks to deprive us of all responsibility to make.
But it's not Western culture that's the problem, just ignorance. Ignorance of who? Who's ignorant? Tolerance is a word you don't hear people using. So okay, what group of people are the ignorant group of people? If it's not Western culture or Western civilization, then where is the ignorance coming from? Is it African cultures that are ignorant to the fact that Western powers control everything? Is it South American cultures or Native American cultures that are ignorant to the? Where's the ignorance at? Who are ignorant? Mostly Americans. America was established by who? Is controlled by who? Has all its institutions formed and structured by who? So you're one of these people too who see the problem. You see the problem, but you don't want to call it white supremacy either. It's just ignorance. Mostly Americans. Okay, who's the major population in America? Who controls the major institutions in America? It comes right back to the same group of people. Comes right back to the same problem. I don't care what it is. White supremacy is the underlying problem for every major global issue, economic, political, social, it doesn't matter what it is. Every major problem, it all traces back to the people who control the natural resources, because some people have more than others. And we want it to stay that way. You're not going to have as much as we have. We're going to go to war to make sure you don't. We're going to go to war to maintain our dominant supremacy because we got the power. And that's it. I don't care what major issue you look at. It's about a power struggle. It's not about money. It's about a power struggle. I have a question. LOL. How do you deal with a breakup personally? Um, so the normal shit I do. I broke up. My heart hurts. Let me go paint something. I don't know, dude. Breakups are hard, honestly. Breakups are hard to get over. Uh, I try to tell people what not to do after a breakup. Don't go for some rebound. Don't go hurry up and jumping into another relationship. That never works. Give yourself some time to be single. Let the fucking little pain, let that shit burn over, fizzle out, go away. You know what I'm saying? You got more time to get back into different shit that you didn't have a lot of time for, and focus. Pick up something, focus on it. You know what I'm saying? The pain will go away. It will. It ain't like nobody died. You know what I'm saying? Try to be friends, still be friends with whoever. That's one of the things that I had to learn is like once I stopped dating people, not to make them my enemy. You know what I'm saying? Shit don't work out. People grow in different directions, you know, and that's life. There's, look at older couples get divorced after 20 years. You know, they've been married for 20 years and had two kids, and one of their kids just about to graduate college, and their relationship just isn't working out no more. They're on two different platforms. Their perspectives have changed. They've grown in different directions, and it's not working. Are they enemies? No. Are they going to continue? Is their relationship healthy? Probably not. So, okay, we're going to just end it. You know what I'm saying? And that's with any kind of relationship. If it's, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years into a relationship, sometimes it don't fucking work. You know what I'm saying? Don't go ballistic, smashing shit, breaking shit, trying to fuck her shit up. She trying to fuck your shit up. Just be calm, be patient, let the pain heal. You know what I'm saying? Don't make an enemy. Chill, be single for a while, and that's it. That's it, yeah. Like, and I give myself a year. Like I haven't been in a lot of relationships. I'm 36 and I've had basically three relationships, and this one is my third one that I'm in now. But like when I break up, I give myself time. Like after my last relationship, it was 2 years before I started dating again. Like seriously dating, like 2 fucking years. And I tell people like, yo, I'm not trying to get attached. Why? Because a breakup hurts. That shit burns. It burns so bad for so long. That shit worse than indigestion, heartburn. It's like, fuck, yo, you just be like, fuck everybody. Nobody don't like feeling like that. So you know what I'm saying? Just mingle, really meet people, because the thing is, everybody got problems. It's 2017, especially if you of a certain age, like I am. It's hard to date when you get older because people already got walls built up because we've been through relationships. We have had heartbreaks. Motherfuckers got kids and mortgages and car payments and all this other shit to worry about. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people ain't got time to deal with the bullshit, and so we build all these fucking walls and we got baggage and shit, and so it's hard to, the older you get, it's harder to date. You know what I'm saying? But everybody got bullshit with them. Everybody got their ways with them. You need to figure out people and make sure you know who somebody is and all that kind of shit too, man. Because, I don't know. I ain't trying to get into more relationships. This is my last relationship. And then let this shit ride out, you know what I'm saying? Till the wheels fall off. And I'm good. And shit is just, I don't know, bro. That is some hard shit to deal with. And that's man to man. Even, I mean, and dudes not supposed to talk about their feelings and all that shit, man. Breakups fucking hurt, son. Fuck that. Shit make me sad. You know what I'm saying? And then you can't really talk to your homies about it because they gonna tell you the same shit. Stop bitching, nigga. Let's go to the bar. We go get some other bitches. But you don't want to go to the bar and get no other bitches. You know what I'm saying? That shit don't be feeling good. And it's alright, man. Shit'll be alright. That's all it is. You still chilling? We still here? Shit. It's another fucking day. Early in the morning. Art and education. You know what I'm saying? It could be worse. You could be a Syrian refugee right now. Think about that. You know what I'm saying? You could have been at that fucking uh, country concert in Las Vegas, and we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. You know? Shit happens. Fuck. You know what you do? Woosah. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shit. Alright, guys. What time is it? I got some shit I need to do. I'm gonna cut the stream short right here. I got a couple errands and shit to run. But I'll definitely be back in here later on today. Because I got a passion for this shit. It's all I do. I just paint. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I'm running out of colors on my palette anyway. Yeah, I'm just... Oh, and PlayStation trying to give me a warning. That's what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying? Shit happens. Shit happens. You know what I'm saying? My mother wasn't never married, and my girlfriend's parents, they're divorced, but you know, both her parents got remarried, and their second marriage has been working out for years. You never know. Relationships are tricky like that, man. You never know. You know. I know it's work. Any relationship, you gotta, compromise. Certain times you gotta make sacrifices. You know, if you want that shit to work. If you want a fair relationship where everybody's on the same equal page, there's compromises and sacrifices need to be made sometimes. But that's the whole thing. Sometimes it'll get to a point where one person in a relationship is just growing in a different direction and is unwilling to sacrifice or compromise any further. And it's always better to agree to end it. Not like, oh, fuck you, bitch. Well, fuck you with your small ass dick. And shit like that. It's just like, yo, man, look, it's not working no more, yo. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna try to make it better? Are we gonna try to work on the issues? Or are we just gonna let it go? And believe it or not, sometimes letting it go is the best thing. I'll tell you something else I learned. Just because you love a person, that doesn't necessarily mean you're meant to be with that person. You can just love people. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean y'all gotta be together. It's a relationship between you doesn't work. Does that mean you love that person any less? No, y'all just can't live together and be in that type of relationship. Maybe you'll be better as friends. Just because you love somebody, you don't have to be with them. That doesn't have to be your partner or your mate. Oh, why did I do that? Alright guys, appreciate everybody stopping in. I'm trying to add the last layer of paint on her skin tones and just work out some little highlights on her shoulders, on her chest, to get that roundness in there. I know it looks pretty good right now, but I can still round it out a little bit more with just a little bit of highlights in some certain places. Come back and put a little bit more highlights in her hair and then work on her jeans. So in the next couple days, hopefully I'll be able to have this project wrapped up and finished, signed, and throw that in the catalog with everything else, because I be on the ball. Yeah, yo, thanks, man. It's getting there, bro. I can already see it. You know what I'm saying? I can already see it. I think this is going to get a lot of good feedback, a lot of good attention. I have a show coming up in December. If I can get another couple of nude models, I think I just might, submit all nudes for the December show. So when people come there for Christmas, they're going to just see boobs. Beautiful black women, though. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, wow, chocolate. And, everybody's just going to want to go home and eat like a chocolate bar or, some Cinnamon Toast Crunch or something. Black women are beautiful. Damn, boy. Yeah, already. If you touch the controller, it'll reset that. I think I got it set for like every hour, where if there is no any kind of functions going on with the controller or anything, it'll shut the game off. So that, because sometimes I'll leave the house and forget to turn it off, so it'll turn itself off. So all you got to do is like just press the button, and it'll reset that whole hour countdown again. All right, guys. Yo, yeah, like I said, I definitely appreciate everybody stopping in this morning. I know it's early. Y'all guys got to get y'all day started, but that's what it is. I'm happy y'all spent a little bit of the morning with me talking about some ancient Egyptian philosophies and stuff like that, looking at some good paintings. If this is your first time coming in the stream, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so that you'll know every time I come in the studio live, and I'm in here all the time. But hey, you guys have a good day. If you're able to pull me up on your phone app or anything like that, check me out later on. Like I say, I'll definitely be back in the studio because I know most of you guys got to go to work or something today. But peace. Until next time.